wrong, I will judge you just the same. So on that, we're going to Johnny Robertson on line 1. Johnny.
Yes.
Hi. You know what? Before we start everything, you remember the night that I stayed when you were with that Muslim guy?
Yes.
Why did you have, because I was doing a show right before that, why did you have like the KKK thing on when you were going to talk to a Muslim?
Because I was actually at the same time in the process of setting up a discussion with the KKK.
Like that night?
Not that night. We were actually in the process of setting up debates with both sides, what we say, both extremes. We were trying to demonstrate that we were willing to have a dialogue and try to mediate between persons that don't appreciate each other in order to try to bring Christ to both of them.
Charles,
Johnny,
you know as well as I know, you set that poor old black man up. That poor man was, y'all set that thing up, and that poor man thought that your religion and his religion was going to come together. And you stole my website that you had no right to do. You was not asked, we was not asked, could you do that? It is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Every commercial, and then just before you'd come back on the air, the first thing they would show was one of our websites. And that went on from 9 till 12 o'clock.
Okay, well, first of all...
And you set that poor old black man that was in his 80s up. You had him so twisted and so confused. I can prove it by anybody that was listening to the show.
His daughter drove up beside me. They pulled up from behind me. I'd like for you to give one shred of proof that I chased them anywhere.
Because that old man thought that you... I know you chased them because I was a...
That's what? Yeah, go ahead and tell it.
No, I can't do it. I seen you chasing them. How about that? Is that proof enough? Right at the stoplight, right up here at the top of the hill, when it wound down and one day and asked you, what was you doing? And you said, I'm videoing you. I was right behind y'all. Yep. I seen it with my own 2 eyes.
You didn't see me chase them. They pulled up from behind me.
No, you was behind them, and you pulled up beside of them.
You can't prove that. You can't prove that.
Well, I'm willing to testify to God with it. Are you?
Excuse me?
I say I'm willing to testify to God with it when it comes my time to meet him. Are you?
Your testimony, God doesn't change facts. Anyone who wants to see the video, I'm very happy to let them see it. One of the guys...
Now that you and Charles can get it and edit it and cut things out.
Now, Johnny, did you have a question for them?
I was wanting to know where they got any kind of biblical proof that God does not want people to mix in their marriages.
Do you have any proof?
Question.
See, that's some more of you twisting around. I didn't say that. I'm speaking for me. I'm speaking for me. I think you should keep your race pure. Now, if another, if I didn't come here, Johnny, I'm not preaching. If anybody wants to, if they want to discuss the Bible, they need to call you, just like they always do.
Well, I heard
nobody else has got a good thing to say about you, but your congregation.
I have heard that you all have somebody who can present biblical positions. Are you saying on the air that he's afraid to have a discussion with us?
We're not afraid.
I gave you his number. Did you ever reach him?
We're not afraid to have a discussion with nobody.
Okay.
But don't try to make us racial haters. Don't try to make us
I gave you Pastor Ken Gregg's number, and I'm going to get a hold of Pastor Eli James, and I was wondering, whenever you want to do it, I'm pretty sure they'll do it. I thought you called them because I gave you their phone number.
I'm saying if you all want them to represent you, why don't you call them?
I'll call them.
Okay, that would be good.
Now, no, you the one.
Cancer patient in Chicago calling you. I'm under doctor's care, medicated, go under for surgery tomorrow. Now, why did you say, what's wrong with Micah talking to somebody who's under doctor's care, whatever? You're talking to me, and I don't feel like you're taking advantage of the weaker link just because I have...
Okay, but Johnny, you called us.
You ain't 78 years old and just had a stroke either.
Johnny, everybody knows y'all set people up. I mean, that's
We set people up.
you set people up. I mean,
We do it.
They run
y'all
into
have talked
churches with
about
hidden
every
cameras
preacher.
and
Y'all have talked
everything
about
else.
every preacher in this country. You go all down in Danville, Breedsville, go in people's churches. Look, if a man has got a church and his organization is happy with him and they believe what he's preaching, I don't know that it's right, but I also don't know what you preaching is right either.
Okay,
And
so
if
Jim
they happy
Jones,
with
you
that,
would be
what
fine
is
with
that
Jim
to
Jones
you
taking all
to
those
go
people
in?
down and drinking Kool-Aid? Is that what you're saying?
The true thing that I'm saying, I think you racial. I think you racial.
Fine. But
Because
the thing is, why don't you visit us and see the mixed congregation that meets today?
Yeah, you got them brainwashed. That cult of yours, you got them brainwashed. That's why they're there. That's why they're
you
mixed.
said we were racist. Now they're all brainwashed. So you're actually disrespecting all of the persons who have chosen to be there.
Well,
you talked about the Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid, so I mean, you know, that's another cult that was supposed to be out there.
It's similar to your cult, basically.
Terry, who said it's okay if their congregation is okay with them, it's their setup or whatever, then he's okay with it. So he's okay with all of these people who are using religion to basically please.
But it's his.
I tell you,
it's his opinion that you and your followers are a cult, just like it was your opinion to say Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid was a cult. That's all I'm saying. You know, like, just to be fair and stop the name calling.
That's not being fair. Everybody in the nation knows that Jim Jones was a cult. I mean, Terry, are you going to say it's all right to have people drink Kool-Aid? And
okay, but that is their choice. That's their choice to drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, that is their choice. I mean, you're calling it a cult. If you were to ask the people right before they died, you know, do you love him? Yes, we love him. I mean, just because somebody calls somebody a cult doesn't mean that it's a cult. They call the Catholic Church a cult.
Okay, I actually saw on this station, Charles documentary where people were being asked. They were trying to get out of there, and they weren't informed. That's all we do is we inform people. We try to get information to show them so that they can see that their own people are corrupt. Now, this gentleman is saying that we set them up when we do that. So
you do set them up.
No, we don't.
You do set them up.
That's his opinion, though. I mean,
that's my opinion.
It's not opinion. He's
I'm entitled to my opinion, just like you are yours.
One of your personal members I know personally will even tell you he goes around the churches with little hidden cameras and microphones and everything else so he can get more information so you can go around and bash other preachers. And that's one of your own members.
Who said this now?
One of your own members.
One of your own members, I'd rather not use his name.
That's considering coming over with us as soon as they can get you off of the back.
Here's the thing, are you saying there's
Is it not true that your members, including yourself, run around with cameras and bash other preachers?
Absolutely, I run around with camera. Is there something intrinsically wrong?
Come on up to my place and bash us a little bit.
There's a camera sitting on
With your cowboy hats on and your boots. I'm going to tell you, them cowboy hats and boots don't make you no cowboy, brother. And we love you.
Let's try to change the subject. You were making an accusation about us using cameras. Is there something wrong with using cameras?
It's something wrong anytime you intervene on somebody else's privacy. Them people are there for church. It takes.
When you're there for church.
Your boy called one of my members that had just got out of the hospital with a stroke against doctor's will, and was under highly medication. But he's never missed a rally. And your boy stood in front of that old man's face and called him a hypocrite because he said he was an Indian. If we was racial, he was half Indian. If we was racial, would we allow him in our outfit?
We already know that you don't usually actually represent facts. So I don't know what Mike actually said.
Now you see, there you go. And you're trying to make me look like you. So you're trying to bring me down to your level, and you can't do it. You can't do it because I've dealt with people like you my whole life.
What does that mean?
It means that you are trying to promote racial violence.
Is that how you deal with people?
How's that again? We need a better speak on it.
Repeat that.
Excuse me?
We can't.
Mariachi band, it's all going to be here April 12th, but before then, even tonight, even tomorrow.
if I was and cop haters,
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Johnny Robertson. We're live on What Does the Bible Say? I think you can tell from our background tonight, very possibly what is going to be taking place. Jesus as a controversialist. You know, I'm actually being told that it's not good to have have a flyer that is a handout, door-to-door handout, with What Does the Bible Say logo on it. In other words, a means by which you can locate what does the Bible say. I don't really understand that in some ways, but in some ways I do. It's not good to some people, but that's pretty much how some people felt about Jesus and his disciples. And so tonight we're going to be talking about that sort of thing, as we always are, but at the same time we're actually going to be asking you the question from the information that we put in front of you. We're going to be asking you, who do you trust? Who can you trust? And we have a lot of individuals, as you're seeing right here. The reason I have this background is, if you look at the, say the internet, I mean, how else are you going to see the majority of things going on at the same time? It would be the internet. That's one of the ways. You can sit around and watch news over and over and over and over, and you let these guys spoon feed you things, or you can actually search. You can, in reality, you could search and try to do your studious best to try to find out what is it that is going on in the nation. Well, if you type in what I have right here, if you type in the red blue states, you know what it really looked like to me when I typed it in was propaganda. When you look at different websites, you see right here, you know, if you're consistently bombarded with inconsistent information, you will never come to a conclusion. And even when you're looking at this, the question is, what conclusion are you going to come to, and who is the one giving you this conclusion anyway? Because who runs this website? Who runs this website? Who runs this website? And what does all of this mean? What are brown states? What are red states? What year is this? What are purple states maybe? Or maybe those are not even purple. You know, what color is that depending on how you look at color? How about this one? Few blue states, a lot of red states, looks like. When you start looking at it, what they may be sending a message to you is the majority of the population is actually found inside of these blue states. And to a certain degree, there are a lot of people over here in New York. Here's a lot of people in Georgia, a lot of people in California, not so many people in Arizona and Nevada, different places like that. But you see what I'm saying? When you start looking at that, you really can be very confused, and it is the case a lot of times that people use those very things in order to do just that. Say, for instance, when you're listening to the newsreel. I don't listen to the newsreel, and this is why I don't, because the news people are constantly changing the phrases. You know, you used to have the used to have the War Department. It was nobody's secret what that meant, the War Department. Then come along here and it's changed to the Department of Defense. What is happening here? That's a mean by which we sanitize and we change the basic first impression. What's your thought? War Department. Well, we know what that is. The Department of Defense. I'm not really sure I know what that is, because, you know, what's wrong with defending ourselves? And, you know, when we talk about defending ourselves, everybody believes you have the right to defend yourself. But no, when we start talking about the War Department, hey, you're putting money into the War Department, there is only one thing you could possibly be doing. Well, the Defense Department, same thing. But it doesn't sound like it, does it? Well, why are they doing that? Because they're trying to keep you confused. You're constantly having to learn new words in order to communicate. Well, who can do that? Well, there are certain people that are watching a particular newsreel and they're getting used to the idea that we really aren't bogged down with inflation. Because after all, what does inflation mean? Well, to inflate a balloon, we all know what that means, but when you start talking about economics, does inflation mean the same thing in economics that it does when you're talking about a lot of hot air into a balloon? Well, usually when you're listening to the newsreel, it is a lot of hot air, and pretty much rank and file individuals, inflation. Well, what does inflation mean? Well, if they're talking about inflated prices, what does that actually mean, and in what relation to, it's like, what are we relating this to? If inflation of prices as opposed to what? Okay, now you have the idea of a recession. Recession. What does a recession mean? I remember being a child And the preacher that I was listening to as a child, we're talking about 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, he was all the time talking about Pentecost. Pentecost? Yes, Pentecost. And you know, just as a child, when you start saying Pentecost, you really have to ask yourself a question. What in the world could a person be talking about when they're talking about Pentecost? Because as a child, when you say Pentecost, what do you mean? What does a penny cost? A penny cost a penny. What in the world is the preacher talking about? And in those days, let me tell you, they talked about Pentecost all the time. Why? When the day of Pentecost was come. Now that word actually is Pentecost. It has a T in it as opposed to P-E-N-N-Y. So I thought the preacher was talking about money all the time, and I thought he was, basically talking about pennies and what does it cost. And then, just as a child, it's like, okay, I can only listen to this so much. But really, back then, they were talking about the day of Pentecost, and the reason why they were talking about the day of Pentecost is because on the day of Pentecost was the beginning of the actual preaching of the gospel after Jesus Christ had died and raised from the dead and sent out his chosen 12 to go into all the world, starting with Jerusalem, and preach. And it was on the day of Pentecost, and they were supposed to be in Jerusalem. That's exactly where they are. The Pentecostals today all talk about that. They actually name themselves that. But you see my point? As a child, I had no idea what they were talking about. And unless you're going to be studious, you're never going to be able to keep up with the ongoing activity in our nation because they're going to keep changing the phrases. Acronyms then come in. So tonight, as we're talking, I hope that you can realize that I am throwing out a lot of information on purpose. And it could be that as you're listening to it, you're like, what in the world is this going to end up being? Well, here it is. We're going to ask you the question about our nation. Who is, in fact, the person who is most likely to help us in our nation? Who do you trust? That's a good question, is it not? Who do you trust? Who can you trust? Well, I tell you what, in a minute, we're going to have our phone lines open. And when we open up our phone lines, we have one idea. I'm saying it is just one purpose, one idea in mind. And what is that? And it is dependability. What does that mean? We're opening phone lines and there is no filter. There's nobody that you're going to ring up that's going to say, this is what does the Bible say? We're going to put you on hold. I don't have a problem with having somebody that does say that because we used to actually have 3 and 4 different phone lines at different places when we were on channel 57 in 1997. We had several different phone lines, and so you would ring up and you couldn't always go straight to live TV. But what we're saying is we're not filtering the calls. So what does that mean? It means that you can trust us if we're taking calls, pro, con, outside the realm of reality. We have some people calling in that they're not even being realistic. They have no concern whatsoever about religion. And you might say, well, who possibly could be like that? How about this person? He is a person that you hear on Star News all the time. I don't know why. I have no idea why. Take a listen.
Question we earlier talked about the KKK. I don't know if you know, we debated against the.
Give a second. Anytime we have a little hiccup, it's not like we can't go ahead and get that somewhere else. Let me have a look right quick. Let's see. Hold a second. Let's see here. I somehow or other did not get that over. Okay. This was actually Joe Prater. And I know I can bring it up on another show, but Joe Prater was actually saying to these guys right here, and I'll let you look at them right quick.
In Deuteronomy, I want to say, I heard with my own ears.
He was talking to these people right here, and they are going to be on our broadcast tonight. Joe Prater actually said Johnny Robertson was going to burn in hell, and in fact, Joe Prater said he was not even a person who goes to church, and he was condemning me to hell. So, really weird, and that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. We have individuals that will call in that have no credibility whatsoever. On the other hand, here's Caleb. He is actually doing a video, a broadcast with a candidate who is running for a supervisor, who is now a supervisor. And so here's my question. Can you trust that individual? How about this? How about this? Can you trust this individual? And you might be saying, well, now, Johnny, both of those guys were not Caucasian.
That's what they say about this state.
And so now we have in front of you two other guys, three white people, and I'll be on the phone with these individuals. And the question is, who are you going to trust? Now, what do we have in front of you? We have some extremes here. Malvester is an extreme. This is the KKK right here, who is an extreme. This is important because in the discussion with Garrett Dillard, then you actually have the KKK coming up, and you have Malvester and the Nation of Islam coming up, and so that's why this is going to end up being so important tonight. And so the question then remains again: who can you trust? Well, when we open up those phone lines, we should be raising the trust factor way up. Why? Because if we're willing, confident enough to have a show called What Does the Bible Say, and the phone lines are open, we're confident enough to basically say to you, you know what, we're going to take your call and we're going to have an answer. We have an answer for the problems that are going on in the nation. We have an answer for the problems that are going on in the community. And, you know, most of all right now, we are worried about our community. And so one of the things that we're doing tonight, as we always do, we're streaming live into YouTube, or onto YouTube. So that means we are not only concerned about the community, but we're also concerned about the nation at large. But first of all, we are local evangelists, Caleb and I, and we're concerned about people here. And so we're going to be using local individuals, and what we're doing is we're setting a stage. You should be willing to do the same thing. You might say, well, Johnny, that's pretty pompous of you to say we should be doing the same thing. Well, what is the option? Talking to the same people inside your building for the rest of your life? That's all you're going to influence, is those few people getting fewer and fewer and fewer inside of four walls? Or is it the case that the gospel is the answer to the problems that we have? And in fact, you know, if you're looking at my screen right now, you can actually see the result of this. And I quickly looked up division in the New Testament, and here's what you find. This is what people are afraid of. Suppose you that I'm come to give peace on earth, I tell you nay, but rather division. You know, in fact, some folks that are friendly to me generally are saying that my show is too controversial for their community. But look what Jesus said. Jesus said, I didn't come to the earth to bring peace. I came to bring division. But you see, one of the things that actually you can use to qualify here is Jesus was going to divide the goats from the sheep. In fact, he really was bringing peace to a certain amount of individuals, but there are a certain amount of individuals that you can't do anything that is going to satisfy them. So here's the rest of it. Here's some of these other verses. Let me give you a chance to look at several different verses here. That was John 7:43. So there was a division among the people because of him. Guess who the him was? Jesus. Notice this, John 9:16. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, this man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath. Others said, how can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? And there was a division. How about that? So that's John 9:16, and then you have John 10:19. There was a division, therefore, among him for the Jews, for these sayings. Now, what did we start out with? We started out with a free book that we'd be willing to send to you. You can email me at joeblue81@gmail.com. You can text me at my phone number that'll be up on the line, up on the screen here in a bit. When I start to go out, you can text me there and ask me for Jesus as Controversialist, and you will get an entire lesson book on how it is that Jesus operated. Do you think it was a surprise to Jesus that he was a divisive, controversial figure? What did he say? I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring division. There's a time when the agents of Satan need to be divided from the people that are good. Now, tonight, as we look at what we have dialed up for you, what do you think? Who can you trust? Well, that's a good question. Here we go. Can you trust individuals who are actually on the board of supervisors, let's just say? Let's bring up one of them and take a listen.
We earlier talked about the KKK. I don't know if you know, we debated against the KKK on TV, like saying openly to the two states, The KKK has for a long time misused the Bible. The Bible does not condemn, a black man wants to marry a white woman.
Correct.
If they're eligible as far as biblical standards.
Correct.
Okay, let's go back, because somebody might say that is not true, that you have debated with the KKK. Notice this. This is a video that actually emanated from Star News in 2011. Where was I? In April of 2011. This particular date, I was in Chicago, outside of Chicago, in a cancer treatment center. Individuals were talking about me on Star News. This was a show that was over like 2 hours long. These are two individuals that were, Mr. Martin is dead now, and these were two individuals that were high-ranking officials in the KKK. Who are they talking to? Who had they been talking to? They have been talking to me. They've been talking to members of the Church of Christ, either in Eden, Martinsville, or Danville. Why is that? Because some individuals associated with us went to their rallies. Why would you go to a rally? Well, the reason you would go to a rally is to find out from the horse's mouth what in the world they say at the rally. Well, this individual happened to praise me and said that he watched my broadcast on a regular basis, worked a night shift, and my broadcast would replay on Star News, and he watched me regularly. You will hear him in this footage that we're talking about, that individuals need to actually call me if they have a Bible question. He said that's what everybody does in this area. Well, that ought to give me some credibility to a certain degree. And you might say, well, no, if you're being praised by the KKK, there's something wrong with you. Why is that? Well, you just saw a picture of me and a member of the Nation of Islam on television. So what's wrong with someone praising me who has been in an arena with me? Nothing. Well, what is also very clear when you have it stated that way, you mean to tell me I get in the arena with the KKK? Yes. You mean to tell me that you all get in the arena with the Nation of Islam? Yes. Who else gets in the arena with these troublesome individuals and brings you the dialogue so that you can actually understand what it is that is being said in our area? So if I bring to you dialogue that demonstrates that this individual and his group church is so against the white race that you can't not even attend with them, well, what will that tell you? Something's up there. Well, what about the KKK? Well, the KKK actually said on the broadcast that I'm showing you that you can't be a member of the KKK unless you're white or some form of white. They're going to be Native Americans saying that they're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, but if you happen to be black and brown, you can't come. I don't know how brown you actually have to be before you can't come become a member, but I do know you can go to their rallies if you can basically summon up whatever you need to go out into a rally where a bunch of people are being they're talking some serious trash. You'll hear that trash on the broadcast that we're using tonight. But here's my point. Who are you going to rely on to get your information? You know, that is a great question. Who is talking to the supervisors? What preachers were talking to supervisors? I don't know anybody that were talking to the supervisor candidates. We were talking with Joe Bryant. We were talking with Andrew Palmer. As a matter of fact, I endorse Andrew Palmer. And so far, did I say Joe Prater the first time? Joe Bryant has brought a fair, and that's his economical answer to the times we're in, whether it's a recession, whether it's inflation. At least we got a fair going. Boy, howdy. And then we're right in the middle of COVID. All the things that are going on. I mean, we didn't even open up with masks and stuff like that until June the 15th, I think, here in Virginia, and over in North Carolina, probably July the 15th, something like that. I'm not sure exactly when all that, but it was in that time frame. So you got a fair, but you can't go. And you're only going to have a certain segment going, seriously, that's our alternatives? All right, take a listen tonight to the dialogue.
The skin color doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So we were hitting that hard, but we've also had debates with Malvester Muhammad, who's with the Nation of Islam, and it is a religion that really circulates inside the prison system or has in the past. Do you think that the Nation of Islam is helping things as far?
Okay, are you ready? Supervisor in Henry County. Now, before we play the supervisor, I hope I have this one. Let's see, we're at 9 minutes and 25 seconds. All right, so give me a second here, and let's hear from the Nation of Islam, because that was the question. Do you think the Nation of Islam? Take a listen.
Church. Why won't you let Bill go in the church?
Because that's the way the Nation of Islam is set up. I explained it on the interview.
Because he's white?
Because the nation is set up where no Caucasian people can come into the mosque. That's why it's like that. And I didn't set it up, and that's the way the nation is, and that's the way I...
He didn't set it up. That's the way the nation is, so that's the way the nation's going to be. Now, in a minute, you're going to hear the KKK say, well, if the pastor is okay, if the people are okay with what the pastor's in teaching, then that's fine. Johnny Robertson should stay out of there. Yeah, right. Is that really the answer? And so let's have a listen to Garrett Dillard. We're going to be having different individuals, as I said, who are representative of our answers to the problems. Take a listen to Garrett Dillard answer Caleb's question.
We earlier, any of the tension inside the community, or do you actually think that type of mindset is actually bringing us backwards?
I heard
it is actually bringing us backwards. Tension inside the community, religion, is that help? The Nation of Islam is helping things. Is Malvester Muhammad, who's with the Nation of Islam, and it is a religion that really circulates inside the prison system or has in the past. Do you think that the Nation of Islam is helping things? As far as, like you said, the right people, the right religion, is that helping any of the tension inside the community, or do you actually think that type of mindset is actually bringing us backwards?
I heard this quote just the other day.
Okay.
And somebody got into the debates about religion and Muslim, Christian, this and that. And the comment was, if a man is an alcoholic, a drug addict, or abuser, or whatever they might be, if they find something that changes his or her life, I'm all for it.
Okay.
If somebody finds something and all of a sudden you're no longer a threat to the community, you become an upstanding citizen, that's up to you and your God as to whether you're going to end up in heaven or hell. But if I don't have to worry about you hurting me or my family, or if you're in my family and I don't have to worry about you getting high or drinking or abusing somebody, then I commend you for making those changes, and
I don't hear anything, even like a 16th cousin to the answer to the question. And then number two, he used somebody else quote that he said, so you didn't hear a single word from Garrett Dillard. He put off whatever he said off on somebody else that he heard a quote the other day. Let's hear it again. These are our problem solvers. Take a listen.
You and your God as to whether you're going to end up in heaven or hell, that changes his or her life. Just the other day.
Okay.
And somebody got into the debates about religion and Muslim, Christian, this and that. And the comment was, if a man is an alcoholic, a drug addict, or abuser, or whatever they might be, if they find something that changes his or her life, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Really? If they find something and it changes his or her life from what he said, drinking and alcohol, beating a wife, whatever it is, I'm all for it. Okay. So something that gets you to stop drinking, stop using drugs, and stop beating your wife, whatever. Something that does that, he's all for it. So, our classic answer right away is, so you're for the Jehovah's Witness? You promote Jehovah's Witness? This dude's a deacon in a Baptist church. So you're just for all of this, you're for the Nation of Islam, who you basically heard him say that a white person cannot even come in the mosque. And have you really studied the Nation of Islam? We have. We've debated the Nation of Islam. Caleb's debated Malvester. I've debated Malvester. We've talked with these individuals on several different occasions. I can tell you what Malvester's up to right now, and what one of his sons is up to. So that's how it is. If you can stop them, you're not bugging me, then I'm all for it. Are you really? Do you think he really, where he goes to church, that the pastor's okay with him saying that he's all for the Nation of Islam? And that, what if it's not the Nation of Islam? What if it's just the real Islamic individuals who are intent on bringing Sharia law? What is Sharia law? Sharia law is basically having their book, the Quran, in every aspect of our government, every aspect of your life. And have you read the Quran lately? The things that are in it are absolutely not principles that we want to be following here in the United States. And so, for that matter, that's their ideology. Now, is it our ideology that everybody has to be the same thing? No, it is not our ideology. Johnny, we've heard y'all say that everybody needs to be a member of the church that you read about in the Bible. That is true, but we're not saying what the people of Islam are saying. What is their banner? What is their token? Well, it's actually a sword. What is our token? Our token is a book and the principles that are found therein. The marketplace, having open discussion. Well, what if you're living in an Islamic country? Can you have open? Not if you have Sharia law. You don't have open discussion. You only have individuals that are teaching the Quran, and if you're not teaching the Quran, they will chop off your head or your hand, depending on what the actual problem is. So, really, continue to listen. Now, you might say, you're picking on him. I am going to give equal time to different individuals and their ideology.
If somebody finds something and all of a sudden you're no longer a threat to the community, you become an upstanding citizen, that's up to you and your God as to whether you're going to end up in heaven or hell. But if I don't have to worry about you hurting me or my family, or if you're in my family and I don't have to worry about you getting high or drinking or abusing somebody.
It's very hard for me to listen to this because, for one thing, the state of Virginia has passed a law as far as getting high. It is legal to smoke marijuana now. It is legal to drink. And so tell me please, who is going from the Nation of Islam? What persons in the Nation of Islam are going to keep you from doing those different things? Is that really a tenet of the Nation of Islam? Is the Nation of Islam, seriously, we have the Nation of Islam around here. You have Malvester standing on the corner of Church and Fayette on a regular basis selling the final call, not selling, giving it away, depending on who you are. And is that really accomplishing anything? Are the young men that come out of prison, are they really furthering themselves as a result of Malvester and the group, the Nation of Islam? I don't see it. As a matter of fact, when I talk to the Nation of Islam and we talk to him, he's not a representative. He pretended to be a representative of the Nation of Islam. He actually told me things like the white people, the white race, are the devil. So white people are the devil, and if it helps you to stop drinking and helps you to stop being high and helps you to be an upstanding citizen, can you be an upstanding citizen, Mr. Dillard, if you believe that the white race actually emanated from the devil and they can't even come into your mosque? Seriously. What if someone were to call in and say, I believe that the KKK, let me state this another way because somebody would clip my language and say that Johnny said this. Let's just flat out have it out here. The white people said the KKK makes you an upstanding individual because you don't drink and you don't get high anymore. So, and you're in the KKK. Would he be okay with that? Seriously, to begin with, he didn't say this anyway. Do you remember what he started with? Somebody said, and he's going to quote them. Now, let's continue to listen.
Then I commend you for making those changes. And I wouldn't dare say if somebody, became a Muslim and their lifestyle became better.
Better is a relative term. So is an upstanding citizen. There are plenty of upstanding citizens, as far as you know, who go to KKK rallies and used to go to KKK rallies and put white hoods on so that you could not see that they were members of the KKK, and you would never know that they were not upstanding citizens. You see, this is just rhetoric. Continue to listen.
Argument wouldn't be, well, you need to be a Christian.
Okay.
Because I'm more concerned about, my focus is that you need to get, those things fixed first.
Okay.
And,
So you need to get the things like alcohol, drugs, you need to get those fixed first. So is Garrett Dillard actually advocating that that's how you get those things fixed first without saying that a person needs to be a Christian? how is it that you're going to motivate someone to get those things first? How do you get them to fix those first? Do you know anybody that has a program that actually says, fix things first before you actually fix things first, your problems, before you become religious, before you become a Nation of Islam, before you become a Christian, before you become whatever? You might be saying, I'm putting words in his mouth. Listen, I'm putting words in the person's mouth that he's quoting. He's already qualified that this is not his position. Take a listen.
If at some point, Christianity becomes your way of life, great.
Yeah.
But, and I hope I'm saying that clear.
Well, I think we're saying two separate things, because the way that you said that was, if it helps them clean up their life.
Correct.
That's one thing.
Correct.
Whereas I would be saying, like I said a moment ago, the eternal destination part. So I think that's going to be a problem.
And I think that sometimes the issue could be like, while we're pushing Christianity on that person, we're missing the chance to get them off of drugs. Now, once they...
Seriously? That's how that works? Well, I have to actually agree with him in a certain degree. Let me qualify this. The brand of Christianity that he advocates and that generally is advocated around here, you don't see any pastors. Caleb's not a pastor. He is a local evangelist. He is an individual who's willing to have dialogue with somebody in the community that's running to solve our problems. But you don't see any pastors having this kind of dialogue openly. As a matter of fact, we had just had a shooting not too long before that, and individuals are going to meet about the problems in our community, and the shooting involved black and brown. And so I was invited by some individuals to the Sportsman Club, and I don't think they were going to be doing what they do at the Sportsman Club on a regular basis, but some individuals didn't want me to be there. Why? It's kind of like it was only going to be the black community, and it was going to be Garrett Dillard and some of the other individuals, and they discussed this in this particular episode. And if you haven't seen it, it's actually up on our YouTube. I'm not exactly sure what the name of it is. If Caleb knows what the name of that particular show is, you can go and watch the whole thing. It's certainly worthwhile. Continue.
Get off of drugs. They get off of alcohol. If, at that point, now we can have some religious discussions. And if they see that Christianity is, the way of the truth, the way and the light, maybe they make that change. But I think that people have to get to a point where we can even have discussion. I can't sit in the room and talk to somebody who's strung out on drugs about whether you want to be a Muslim or whether you want to be a Christian. I've got to get you to the point where you're off of drugs first.
Yeah, can I say that we wouldn't do that? Yeah. Like, I mean, we recognize you're working with your audience, I'm going to be talking to that person, just like you said about we need to put in these small steps that are manageable, but they will manifest in bigger gains. Yeah. So, I mean, I recognize that. Yeah. But just the idea of, I have had direct encounter. They had a Martin Luther King Stop the Violence March in Danville a couple years ago. And so my thing was, I was talking to different people in the crowd when we were there, and I came upon one young man, and I asked him, I had the book with me at the time, Message to the Black Man, and so I asked him his thoughts about it, and he kind of leaned in, and he said, I think you're a devil because of your white skin. Oh, wow. And I said, because I didn't know, that was coming. And I said, like the book says. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, you are what you are. And so this is just
Here's my thing. Do you think
you are what you are?
Do you think Garrett Dillard has read the Message to the Black Man? That's what Caleb is actually quoting here. And on the page, he actually has a page out of the Message to the Black Man. It says, the head of this movement, Mr. King, is trying to force the white man in the South to do that which is against his will and nature, because some of the northern parties of the white people, maybe in Washington, have said to him that he should be this should be done and should have done this in the Constitution, and therefore you should enforce it and therefore have it enforced by the government. But Mr. King has not learned as yet that the white man in the South is brethren to the white man in Washington, and the Washington white man is the brother of the Southern white man, and that they're not going to war over the black man and kill each other for the sake of unlearned black men of knowledge of self and others, to integrate into that which they don't master. Give me a piece of your meat that you have there in your house. Now, therefore, Mr. King is making a fool of himself in the South and acting like a dog around the house where the master stands at the door and the dog wants something to eat, and he just waddles all around the house, around the master's feet, whipping his tail on the ground and grinning and leaning his ears back and on his neck to show that he is a good, peaceful dog. And master, give me a piece of your meat you have there in your house. How about that? And this is while there is plenty of meat for the dog in the bushes out there, if he will go out and hunt for it. Oh, man. How about that? Martin Luther King is a dog. Who said that? Well, Garrett Dillard actually said that if Islam helps you to, in his mind, be a upstanding citizen, then I'm all for it. Did he say that? Absolutely, he said it. Would he say, if being a member of the KKK helps you to be an upstanding person, he's all for it? He just said whatever. And he said, don't be pushing Christianity on people while they still have their problems. Just continue to listen.
And so this is just a quote out of the book. This is Message of the Black Man. And so he says, it's towards the back of the book, he says, what are we going to integrate for? And then he said, that would just ruin our families, and it's against the divine law for either side to integrate in such ways. So honestly, I'm telling you, Mr. Dillard, from my...
And the book actually says, what do we want to marry a white woman for when we're black men? That's going to ruin our family. We will spot up our family. What does he want a black man for? Or what does the black man want the white one for? This is ignorant on both parts to want to intermarry. Now, you know what, Mr. Dillard, I appreciate him for coming on, and he may not like what I'm doing now, and he knew the drill. When you come on, we're going to talk about with you there, and then we're going to look at what you say and break it down, because the community oftentimes only hears little pieces of it. It sounds like he is a very amiable individual. He likes everybody, and he's for everybody's religion, and he's for every club, and he's for anything that helps you to be an upstanding person. And upstanding means you're not on drugs and you're not on alcohol and you're not getting high around me. But you know what? These individuals, what is the difference in what they're saying? Now, Mr. Martin told me that he changed his position on whether or not a white man and a black woman can marry, or a black man and a white woman can marry. He told me that he basically changed his position. How did he change his position? He changed his position as a result of watching what does the Bible say. This individual right here, I have had discussions with him as well. He's in North Carolina. I don't know if he's still a dignitary in the KKK or not, but I do know that he has a different opinion than he had when he was sitting right here. He's talking all kinds of trash about me. Let's listen to them for a while. All right, take a listen.
I am not going to judge people until they prove me wrong. Until you prove me wrong, I will judge you just the same. So on that, we're going to Johnny Robertson on line 1. Johnny.
Yes.
Hi. You know what? Before we start everything, you remember the night that I stayed when you were with that Muslim guy?
Yes.
Why did you have, because I was doing a show right before that, why did you have like the KKK thing on when you were going to talk to a Muslim?
Because I was actually at the same time in the process of setting up a discussion with the KKK.
Like that night?
Not that night. We were actually in the process of setting up debates with both sides, what we say, both extremes. We were trying to demonstrate that we were willing to have a dialogue and try to mediate between persons that don't appreciate each other in order to try to bring Christ to both of them.
Charles,
Johnny,
you know as well as I know, you set that poor old black man up. That poor man was, y'all set that thing up, and that poor man thought that your religion and his religion was going to come together. And
so this is Stan Martin. As I said, he's dead. And the other man was Bishop Kellum. He's dead. And for some reason, Stan Martin is basically taking up for Bishop Kellum for some reason. I have no idea. And what he's going to say, there's no merit to it whatsoever as we start in, though. But just to tell you, what she asked was, why did you have the KKK featured while you were talking to the Muslim guy? Well, fact of the matter is, I went ahead and had the debate with the Muslim guy. He was from Mississippi, and he actually had the capability of getting himself onto a radio station in Detroit, Michigan. And so that's where the debate actually emanated. Then we were working with Stan and this individual, I'm not going to mention his name. We were working with them, individuals who were either in the Eden congregation or in Martinsville, were involved in talking with them. He'll say that here in a minute. And setting up for me to debate with either one of their local guys, which I did not want to debate one of their local guys. I wanted to debate somebody that knew what they were talking about. His name was Eli James. And as you know, we're basically, I just said I was in Chicago at this point, so my ability to stay healthy long enough to have those debates was the problem. I ended up being diagnosed with cancer, so continue to listen.
You stole my website that you had no right to do. You was not asked, we was not asked, could you do that? It is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Every commercial, and then just before you'd come back on the air, the first thing they would show was one of our websites. And that went on from 9 till 12 o'clock.
Perspective.
Okay, well, first of all...
And you set that poor old black man that was in his 80s up. You had him so...
What was their website? It was basically them up at Stewart, Virginia, standing around on the steps of whatever building that was, yelling, "White power!" Well, I don't know if they do it like this, white power. I don't know if they do it like this, white power. But that's what he's upset about, and I don't know why. We gave him free advertisement, really, if you're talking, if he would really pay attention. That's them. They had their hoods off. You could see him. You could see individuals that had traveled all over the place, and he's whining on this particular clip about some guy that came who was on doctor's medication and all this kind of stuff. And then he starts talking about Bishop Kellum and how that, we set him up or whatever. And he's talking about Bishop Kellum and Darcel being in the Rolls Royce, and they came along, came up behind us, and then we started videoing them as we pulled up to a red light on Church and Fayette. And Miss Kellum threatened to put something in me so hot that I would have to have a 55-gallon drum of water to cool myself off. And then she went on to say that she had a 38. Door knocking was all we were doing. Door knocking. And you have to worry about somebody with a 38. 38 what? A 38 Ford, 38 Chevy, 38 Dodge, Chrysler. What are we talking about? I think everybody knows what we're talking about. But that poor old man, and his wife wasn't even in the car. Continue to listen.
Twisted and so confused. I can prove it by anybody that was listening to the show.
His daughter drove up beside me. They pulled up from behind me. I'd like for you to give one shred of proof that I chased them anywhere.
Because that old man thought that I know you chased them because I was
Yeah, go ahead and tell it.
No, I can't do it. I seen you chasing them. How about that? Is that proof enough? Right at the stoplight, right up here at the top of the hill.
Do you know all the things people say they saw me do? You see how long it took him to go ahead and say, well, I seen you. Now, when you really question him, he could easily say, well, I saw the video. And then he gets to say, well, I seen you in the video. But right now he's saying that he saw me, and it sounds like personally, and it took him a long time to get around to saying that.
When it wound down and one day and asked you, what was you doing? And you said, I'm videoing you. I was right behind y'all. I seen it with my own two eyes.
You didn't see me chase them. They pulled up from behind me.
No, you was behind them, and you pulled up beside of them.
You can't prove that. You can't prove that.
Well, I'm willing to testify to God with it. Are you?
Excuse me?
I say I'm willing to testify to God with it when it comes my time to meet him. Are you?
Your testimony, God doesn't change facts. Anyone who wants to see the video, I'm very happy to let them see it. One of the guys...
Now that you and Charles can get it and edit it and cut things out.
Now, Johnny, did you have a question for them?
I was wanting to know where they got any kind of biblical proof that God does not want people to mix in their marriages.
Do you have any proof? See, that's some more of you twisting around. I didn't say that. I'm speaking for me. I'm speaking for me. I think you should keep your race pure. Now, if another, if I didn't come here, Johnny, I'm not preaching. If anybody wants to, if they want to discuss the Bible, they need to call you, just like they always do.
Well, I heard
nobody else has got a good thing to say about you, but your congregation.
I have heard that you all have somebody who can present biblical positions. Are you saying on the air that he's afraid to have a discussion with us?
We're not afraid.
I gave you his number. Did you ever reach him?
We're not afraid to have a discussion with nobody.
Okay.
But don't try to make us racial haters. Don't try to make us
I
racial
gave you
haters.
Pastor Ken Gregg's number, and I'm gonna get a hold of Pastor Eli James. And I was wondering, I mean, whenever you want to do it, I'm pretty sure they'll do it. I thought you called them because I gave you their phone number.
I'm saying if you all want them to represent you, why don't you call them?
I'll call them.
Okay, that would be good.
No. You the one.
I'm a cancer patient in Chicago calling you. I'm under doctor's care, medicated, go under for surgery tomorrow. Now, why did you say, what's wrong with Micah talking to somebody who's under doctor's care, whatever? I mean, you're talking to me, and I don't feel like you're taking advantage of the weaker link just because I have
okay, but you called, but Johnny, you called us.
You ain't 78 years old and just had a stroke either.
Johnny, everybody knows y'all set people up. I mean, that's
we set people up.
You set people up. I mean,
y'all
have talked about every preacher. Y'all have talked about every preacher in this country. You go all down in Danville, Breedsville, go in people's churches. Look, if
here we go. Here we go. The KKK. The KKK is fixing to give you the answer. Garrett Dillard is giving you the answer. Malvester giving you the answer. Are these really the individuals? Now, somebody's going to say, now, Johnny, I can't believe that you put Garrett Dillard in the mix. Listen, Garrett Dillard is a supervisor. He is the answer man. What's the problem? Here's the problem. Our nation is in a state of confusion. It stays in a state of confusion. Who are you going to trust? Well, by you putting Garrett Dillard in the mix, listen, Garrett Dillard doesn't want to be in the mix. He can call up. I think we have our phone lines up right now, 336-484-5028. Phone lines are open. Mr. Dillard could call up and say, I don't want to be the answer man between the problems of the Nation of Islam and the KKK in this area. Well, you said, as long as you could become an upstanding citizen, it doesn't matter to him if you did it through the KKK. No, I'll take it back. Through the Nation of Islam. But he said whatever organization, the KKK is an organization as well, and they have people in this area. We know some people that are in the KKK, and we know some churches in this area, in the Pennsylvania County area, this area too, have been long members of the KKK. And, you know, we've even had individuals like Lawrence Campbell point people individually out in a setting where he was being celebrated. So, you know, why not? I am happy to be in this mix. Why? Because I know that the Nation of Islam is not the answer to people's problems, and I know the KKK is not the answer to people's problems, and I know that Garrett Dillard's Baptist Church is not the answer to the problems. Well, you know, Johnny, that's very, very bombastic. Let's say that. Let's go ahead and listen just for a minute, because we're about to hear something really, really unbelievable coming out of the mouth of the KKK.
You know, I knew about the meeting at the Sportsman's Club. My dad did too.
Correct.
There were some people who would have liked to have brought my dad.
Correct.
But they said at the time that wasn't allowed. But I think it's counterproductive to have Malvester Muhammad, who full-fledged believes these type of statements. In the book, it also, Elijah Muhammad gives some very derogatory statements towards Martin Luther King that I don't agree with. I'm sure you don't either.
You know, and what we have to be careful of is like to put like a Malvester in a group and say that's bad, but we're okay with stuff like what happened at the Capitol, because there are people who...
Wait a minute. Muslims? Is there any doubt what happened to the Twin Towers? Is there any doubt? I mean, we have the pictures of the individuals that were involved in the atrocity associated with the Twin Towers, Islamic terrorists. So now, when you're talking about what happened at the Capitol, what are we really talking about? I mean, if you want to really get down to factual, former President Trump ordered 20 troops, National Guard, before anybody arrived at the Capitol. He upgraded security. So, let's be careful in what we actually say here when we do have some facts that are readily, can you actually get online, get past the newsreel and get online and find the documentation associated with what was going on at the Capitol? In other words, the real orders that were being given out. And let's don't bring a Malvester and kick him out of the meeting, even though Malvester debated me and said that white people are devils. Boy, that's really going to help us with our drug problems up at the old Patrick Henry area mall where you had the shootout. Let's be careful. Let's continue. Answers.
Who think that was okay? And, we've got to realize that, it's not black, it's not white. People have their views and their beliefs. And as far as what happened at the Sportsman Club, I think sometimes as an African-American male, we're doomed, and excuse me, hopefully I can say this, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. Because if we don't get together, then they don't care. If we do get together, then it's they excluded folk. And I think that sometimes you do have to, if you and your family have an issue, you might have a best friend.
We're not talking about family matters. We're talking about the community. We're talking about drugs. We're talking about alcohol. We're talking about a community problem. And you have to get together by race. Sounds exactly like what the KKK are saying, and it sounds exactly like what Islamic people are saying, Nation of Islam. You got to have your own. That makes no sense. Why could you not have me be involved? The reason you're going to not have me or Caleb being involved in something like that is because we're going to answer him on the floor. I've been in several different settings like city meetings, county supervisors meetings, things of that nature. And, answering these individuals is very simple because it's a whole lot of politics, and politicians generally say a whole lot of nothing. Keep listening.
But it's like, hey, you can't come over tonight because me and my family have to get this worked out before we can take this out into the community.
I did not know his family was involved in the shooting. So, excuse me. So is it the case that all black people are related? Is that what he's actually trying to say? And there were actually some Mexicans involved in that too. So where were the Mexican people that were going to do, it's actually them pulling guns against each other. So wouldn't they need to be some kind of, some individual who's going to represent the Mexican community? Let's go back to the KKK. Who you going to trust? Now, at the end of the day, I also want to make sure that you realize what we're doing here for you, because there's not many individuals that are actually going to do this for you. We're reviewing the religious people around you. Garrett Dillard is a deacon. These guys here are religious. This is their religion. Christian Identity is actually the name of the religion that Eli James represented.
If a man has got a church and his organization is happy with him and they believe what he's preaching, I don't know that it's right, but I also don't know what you preaching is right either. And if they happy with that, what is that to you to go in
and is that what you're saying?
The true thing that I'm saying, I think you racial.
Fine. But
Because why?
You visit us and see the mixed congregation that meets today.
Yeah, you got them brainwashed. That cult of yours, you got them brainwashed. That's what.
What's wrong with a cult? When you really get down to it, he said if everybody's okay with the pastor and what he's teaching, then I don't know. He said he really told the truth about that. He don't know what he's talking about. Would he be okay with Jim Jones? Everybody basically knows that folk in these religions. Let's just ask the question: was he okay with Creflo Dollar asking for tithes to buy a $50 million jet? No, he would not have been okay with that. Could I go in and actually talk to Creflo Dollar if I had had a chance, boy, I bet he'd be all for it. See, just a bunch of foolishness. Continue to listen.
That's why the
you
mix.
said we were racist. Now they're all brainwashed. So you're actually disrespecting all of the persons who have chosen to be there.
Well, you talked about the Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid, so I mean, you know, that's another cult that was supposed to be out there.
It's similar to your cult, basically.
Terry, who said it's okay if their congregation is okay with them, it's their setup or whatever, then he's okay with it. So he's
Now, so here's where we are tonight, as we sum up. Religious review. Are you like having a problem with the fact that we go in and get information for you so you don't have to? Because I can tell you this, would you have ever known what the KKK was saying if I had not brought it to you, or Caleb had not brought it to you, or Caleb had not met with Malvester, or I hadn't met with Malvester? Would you have never known? Would you ever know? No. Would you read the Message of the Black Man? No. There's probably not even 1 in 10,000 individuals in this town in this county that has read Message to the Black Man. Well, are they all brainwashed? Yes. It's people coming out of prison, and the Nation of Islam is in the prison system. Then number 2, you basically have the KKK. You don't know the members of the KKK. They meet secretly generally, and they cover themselves up, or at least they used to. In the commercial that we were running, it was them with their hoods off. And Stuart, white power, white power, white power. Listen, y'all, is this stuff really going to help our nation? What is going to help our nation? Well, actually, what does the Bible say is going to help our nation? But here's the problem. When you're dealing with what does the Bible say, you have these pastors that control you, fear and intimidation. They control you. If you call in, somebody recognizes your voice, then they tell on you for watching the one program that is willing to expose what's going on. Somebody might say, are you worried about Garrett Dillard? Listen, Garrett Dillard, coming back on you, Garrett Dillard is a public figure. He is open season. Those are his own words. Once he got through quoting that one person that said that one thing, the rest of it was his own words. And it was a whole bunch of nothing. That's what politicians do. Now, the KKK was pretty adamant about their position. But what we're talking about is, look, division is not something that is always representative of a bad person. Suppose that I'm come to give peace on the earth, Luke 12:51. No, I tell you nay. So is it the case that what does the Bible say, being controversial is a bad thing? No, it is not. What does that mean? It means that sometimes you have to have controversy. What does that mean? You have to weed out the problematic situations that are out there in order to get better. What does that mean? It means you're just going to have to stop with the everybody's okay, you're okay, I'm okay, and we're not going to do anything until whatever. Those are not answers. Listen, if you're involved with the local Church of Christ, then I'm saying the local Church of Christ around here, then we're going to help you to be a walking, talking answer machine. Now that is, if you're not ashamed, if people don't have you beat down with fear and intimidation, and that's what our job is. And not only that, we're doing this all over the United States. We have individuals all over the United States that are involved watching our broadcast, trying to duplicate what they learn from the New Testament. My phone number, 276-806-2150. I don't have Caleb's up just at this moment. And my email is joeblue81@gmail.com. You might say, why do you have so much trouble with your email? I have more than one email. One of them is religiousreview@gmail.com. And the idea is us reviewing religion so that you don't have to. Now, folks, you just have to make up your mind. Do you want to share this with somebody? If you know somebody out there who thinks that everything is okay, can't see that number, everything is okay because they're not being controversial, well, really what you are is a fence rider. And if you don't want to tell people what you believe, then you're simply too cowardly, ashamed, any one of those words or ideas that you want to put on your back. That's what it is. Listen, I'm very thrilled to be a follower of Jesus Christ, a true Christian who is a member of the body of Christ, the Church of Christ that he shed his blood for. And we're putting it out there on YouTube, we're putting it out in the local 2 states area, going into beyond Raleigh, North Carolina, on Sunday night as well, and into the Houston area on Sundays at 6 p.m. Appreciate you for being with us tonight. Always ask for it. What does the Bible say? God bless you.